He's really he's shameless in intellectual argument. He's absolutely without character, a moral foundation, or even intellectual substance.
Welcome back to the Getting Lit podcast. Last episode, we did a kind of three-way investigation into the Legacy of Kain video game series. And this week, we are talking about a classic work of ancient Greek drama, Euripides' Medea. And I'm looking forward to this because I don't think this is probably the oldest thing we've ever covered on the show. Like, I think probably prior to this, it was like I think I've done Shakespeare before, but that's probably like the oldest thing I've done. But yeah, so we are looking at something very ancient. And then we're also looking at another, because, this play has been, redone and restaged basically, since it was kind of rediscovered in the 16th century. But there's been so many iterations of it, but I thought it'd be fun to do the Lars Von Trier adaptation, which should be fun to talk about, especially the differences between the stories. But yeah, so this one thing that's really interesting about Medea, which if you haven't read the play or are familiar with the kind of myth, is Medea is the wife of Jason from Jason and the Argonauts. The Greeks, ancient Greek sailors in the myth who kind of find the golden fleece. And really important context for this myth too, which I think is really, it's kind of thing that Greek audiences would already know, but modern audiences might not, is that Medea comes from the land that Jason went to find the golden fleece, and she helped him with all of her wily kind of womanly witchy ways to basically she helped him over all of these kind of struggles and hurdles in order for him to get that. And this story is basically they come back to Greece. They're at Corinth, actually. And, he's already married Medea. He's already had children with her. And he's decided, it would be good for me to sort of marry the king of Corinth's daughter, And so he kind of casts her off. And the story is basically her getting revenge at Jason by poisoning and killing both the king and his daughter, and then also killing her two children, but leaving Jason alive so he can kind of wallow in the misery. And this story is funny because the play was part of a trilogy that Euripides wrote for I forget what the competition was, but it was a competition in ancient Greece, and it came last. There were three competitors, and this story came last, but it was within, so the competition was basically you would do a couple of tragedies and then you would do a satire play, like something that's a little bit more light and funny. But yeah, he came dead last in this, when he wrote this and submitted it to the competition, in like 431 BC, I think it was. But it's sort of since kind of garnered this, it's been very, it's speaking to people down through the ages because it's just been reinterpreted and restaged so many times. Like, even if you don't know the story, you've probably heard of Medea, right? So like, I would want to get your thoughts, Fresta. Like, had you ever heard of the story before, or like, was this your first encounter with it?
Well, the first time I ever heard the term or the name Medea there was like a goth band called Sex Gang Children that had an album called Medea.
Yeah.
And I read it as Media when I was like 18. So I just thought the album was called Media, and I was like, oh, maybe that's like a weird old spelling of it or something. Maybe I'll stick the title track on the end if I don't think of anything better. So yeah, that was when I first heard of it. And then I think it was just one of those things, like I'm not at all well versed in this kind of Greek tragedy play stuff like that. So it's good that you get me to read this sort of stuff to expand my horizons. So yeah, I didn't really know the deal with it. It's obviously like I've seen movies of Jason and the Argonauts, that claymation one.
Oh, the old Harryhausen ones. They were so good.
Yeah, I loved those as a child. I mean,
yeah, me too. Like I was obsessed with them. And like even like, because they're quite old, they're like from the 60s, but even when I was growing up, and obviously special effects had like kind of it progressed since then. Like I just always found it so wonderful, and like it really kind of was imaginatively kind of resonant for me with these janky like skeletons. And I always remember the big brass statue as well, like that
once it starts moving, like they go into like the room underneath it or something. And because like all that claymation stuff like just holds up so much better. There was that period where they started first using CGI and it looks like terrible, like but all the like whatever, like Army of Darkness and all those kind of movies with claymation shit, like they always, obviously it looks fake, but there's something kind of like uncanny and creepy about it. Whereas like the early claymation, or early SGI, I mean, early like computer effects, like whatever the Mortal Kombat movie and shit like that, like they look like dog shit now if you try to watch it.
Yeah, and with the animatron or whatever you would call it, like stop motion animation is because there's always like, because it is a model that is manipulated and then filmed and sped up, or however they do it, there's always like such a heft to it that you never get in computer generated stuff. Computer generated stuff like always seems just a little bit wispy. Like it's just like if you just rub the screen, it'll just go like an Etch-a-Sketch disappear, But yeah, anyway, that was a tangent about Ray Harryhausen films, but they were so good, and like they really sparked your imagination. I think as well, for boys especially, the Jason and the Argonaut story is so resonant because like Jason is just like a regular dude. Like he's not like Hercules, who is like son of Zeus or like has like superhuman strength. And he's not quite like Odysseus either, who's like another Greek hero who is a regular mortal dude, but like he's like almost supernaturally kind of cunning and clever. Whereas Jason's just like this average Chad dude who who just sort of blusters his way through adventures, which is pretty cool.
Am I correct too that Jason wears like one sandal or something? Is that a thing?
I can't remember.
Because the version of the Medea I read, there was like a little preamble thing or whatever, introduction, and they said something about one sandaled Jason, and then I was like, got me thinking of Dahlgren, and I was like, oh, is that where Delaney, is he referencing Jason or something like that? Like,
yeah. Probably,
you know what I mean? Maybe you could read Dahlgren and be like, it's this kind of like Argonautical reinterpretation somehow, or maybe it's literally just a nod, and then the rest of it has nothing to do with it.
Possibly, like Delaney is the kind of writer who would do that. He's very, very literary and like brings a lot of like literary allusions into things. And he's gay, so he has a bit of a boner for the Greek stuff because it's so homoerotic. But yeah, definitely. But like, yeah, that's part of it as well. Part of the appeal, I think, is that, and that this is probably, I suspect, why the Medea play probably didn't go over so well at the time in ancient Greece, and why it came dead last in the competition, is because Jason, I think, is a more down to earth kind of hero, and like and so probably a lot more kind of Greek guys back in the day kind of identified with him. He's like, it's like almost like the Greek Rocky Balboa or something like that. And so Medea fucking up his shit maybe didn't like sit well with people, and that's why it didn't win the competition or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like they're, talking smack about like this god kind of thing and making it more like domestic or something like that, like just this realistic kind of thing, and how he's could be flawed. And I was thinking it's interesting too, because like I guess I wouldn't say it's like a feminist play necessarily, but it's like very much like you know, like, oh, the plight of women, and look, we do all of this, we take on all these burdens, and then what do we get for it? We get like betrayed by our husband just for this. And then it's like interesting that like Lars Von Trier did an adaptation of it, which you know, when I think of like a misogynist director, that's like the guy, you know, like, but again, I guess you could also take like a misogynist reading of it because she's like a child murderer and like she's gone crazy and using witchcraft and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, the play has been reimagined so many times by like feminists because it is, well, one, it's sort of, and feminists sort of have both of these views, like different feminists, like actually it's really misogynistic. Oh, actually it's really empowering because like Medea kind of takes control of her destiny or whatever, and you know is very smart by like throughout the story she's very cunning in that she manipulates all the men to various ends in the same way, but she also uses witchcraft and things and poisons and things like that because she is also not Greek, so she's from out because she came from Colchis, I think it was called, and that is, you know, at the very kind of extremes of like the Athenian Empire at the time as well. So like they were probably, you know, she's this barbarian kind of priestess, witchy woman. And so like that kind of otherness of her as well, like lots of feminists kind of vibed with and kind of leaned into that. And so it has been retold as a feminist thing. And also like Euripides himself is actually quite misogynist. If you read his other plays and like commentaries and stuff like that, like he actually hates women, like, and he's always talking about how evil women are, and like, and he even says, I think he's been attributed as saying this elsewhere, but not just in this play. One of the characters I think says, "Oh, if only men had some other way of like generating like offspring, like women aren't worth it."
Jason says that, right?
Yeah,
or is it? I've got
maybe
confused.
The chorus or Jason. I can't remember who said it.
I got to be honest. There's a lot of this where I was sort of skimming through, and then I'd get like just off on a thought tangent. I would probably read like 2 pages without really absorbing it.
I mean, it is something that should be performed. Like, it's an amazing play to see performed, right? So, like, but I don't know what translation you got. There are like translations that are like vastly different too. So, like, I don't want to be what do you call it? A
Translumphy.
Yeah,
but there's some validity to that because the translumphy thing is, it's not that there aren't better, well, at least my interpretation, like whatever Jack's thing is, but I think like there are clearly with some things better translations. It's just that the people who will just use that as an excuse not to read, so they'll be like, oh well, I'm not going to start reading this until I figure out and have, and it's like, well, what's the fucking hold up? Just go buy the version, then that's
exactly
the Penguin. You know, like the Penguin one's always going to be a good translation. I bought the 99 cents one on Kindle, so I just was like a cheap ass and was like, what's the cheapest one? Could pay $16.99 for the Penguin one, but I bought
My point is that like some actually are better than others, and like I think the Penguin one, because I forget who translated that, but usually the Penguin ones are just like reprints of like really old translations of like, and by really old I mean like, you know, someone from the late 19th, early 20th. And I think for this sort of thing, those are usually the best translations because those people were very, very well educated in Greek at the time.
Yeah.
And they were also, because they came from a much more literate society, much better writers. So like you get this old timey, but sort of still kind of comprehensible translation of it. But even so, I would say that Medea is a play that is like really electrifying when you see it performed. So I've seen a couple of productions, and even with like the annoying like kind of libtard feminist sort of interpretation of it, it's still really really resonant, and like the kind of emotions that and the emotional truths that Euripides puts into the play kind of, it doesn't even matter what, like, I don't think what political slant you put on it, because it's so much richer than that. So even if you do try to fit it into like some kind of feminist mold, it's still a really powerful story. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, for something that's this old especially, I'm not really gonna try to force it into our current political paradigm. I'm just like, yeah, it's getting at like archetypical things between men and women. Like, it's probably critical of both sexes, you know. Like, yeah, Jason's obviously being a bastard, but she's obviously being a crazy cunt. Like, you know, like, and whatever, maybe justifiably so. Like, she was, you know, she murdered her brother to help Jason, right?
Yeah,
And then,
she betrayed her father and like did all of this like kind of shit to, you know, not, and also using her powers and stuff to basically help him through various hurdles in order to kind of complete his quest to finding the golden fleece, you know. So she did a lot for him. So like, and just for him to just sort of cast her off is like, it's kind of like, you know, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't excuse like killing her children or whatever. And so it's just like everyone, that's the part of it that's tragic, I guess. Everyone is sort of like kind of flawed, you know, they have their flaws, and Jason is no exception, because, and that's the great thing about Jason is like in the Argonaut story as well, is that he's just a regular guy, you know, with flaws and weaknesses and things like that. So, yeah, like I think, Medea as well, like, is, you know, this is probably one of the first, sort of dramatic, representations of like a fully realized woman as well. Like, previous to this, probably women weren't given a lot of like, they weren't fleshed out as much. Like, you know, it was always a princess being rescued or a goddess or something up on high. Whereas Medea has these very long kind of like soliloquies and monologues and dialogues with people, like just sort of justifying her actions and what she's going to do and her plans and things like that.
Yeah, and like the chorus, is that like meant to be like a chorus of women, because she's trying to sort of get them on her side, and they sort of are for a bit, like, but she's, and like, and then it's like later when she's just killing the children, it's kind of like they're sort of like, oh, this is horrible, but they sort of like are very ineffectual to do anything about it. Like,
yeah. Well, the chorus's role in ancient Greek drama, you know, I'm no expert on this, but the chorus's role is usually like, they're almost like the narrator. So like things will be playing out, and then the chorus will kind of come in to like speak on what this means moralistically, or you know, like just to speak on the happenings of the play. So the chorus are almost like, sometimes characters interact with them, but usually they're just sort of like I don't want to say stand-in for the audience, but they're like the conduit for the audience to sort of more like understand what the meaning of what's going on, you know, when you're watching the play, I guess.
Right.
So sometimes you see this in, I can't think of an example, but it's a thing that has been like redone in modern, kind of times. I guess the best example would be like when people, have a voiceover or something in a movie.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that. Kind of contextualizes things. But yeah, like the chorus, I'm not sure. I haven't researched it, but I'm not sure if they're supposed to be women or not. Usually it's like just a couple of different kinds of people.
Okay.
And usually they were like wearing the same thing as well. So there was this like uniformity to them.
Yeah, I can't imagine it just like a church choir or something, and they'd all be just wearing the white robe or something like that.
Yeah.
And I sort of imagine them like doing it in like a sing-songy way. I don't know if it would have been sung or not.
Oh yeah, it was poetry. So
okay.
Yeah, would have been in verse.
Yeah, because I'm not sure. Tried just looking it up then, and it doesn't even say who did the translation of the version I read. So I'm not sure what year or
maybe it was just Grok or ChatGPT.
Yeah, maybe.
But Well, yeah. So there's a lot here as well. Like a lot of it is just like, the the interactions between Jason and Medea. Jason being like, "Oh, fuck off! I want to marry this hot bitch now." Like, you're old and weird. Go away. What is really interesting about it is how Medea goes about getting her revenge. So first of all, she poisons King Creon's daughter, and her name is Glauce, I think her name is, and that is like really horrific when the messenger comes and describes what happens, and like oftentimes that's you usually see that in the play, and there's various ways you can do this that I think is, but no way that I've seen done on stage is as like disturbing and disgusting as the way it's described in the play. Like that she gets poisoned with this like little kind of crown or something,
chaplet.
And like yeah, I don't know.
It would be like,
is.
well, I assume based on the Lars Von Trier movie, it's a type of crown.
Yeah,
like,
and and her face melts off.
Like, yeah, and like white foam comes out of her
and bursts into flames. And that's a real sort of like older woman punishing the younger woman sort of thing, like, burning off their face, their young, supple face, which I really love. And also what's interesting about that is that she kills the princess with poison. So poison always being like the woman's weapon, like, because it's not straight, when a man kills another man, it's like you do it, you stab them, you do something or fight them with swords or spears in this time.
Shoot them in a duel.
Yeah. And so it's direct and straightforward, but like poison is always like the woman's weapon, like, and that's why it's kind of, it's dishonorable, and it's like, people don't know what's coming for them. And I found it interesting that, men in these sort of old kind of, even like newer things as well, are usually killed by women via poison, but very rarely do you see women poison other women. Which I think is cool, because poison is usually the thing that's used against men, and it inverts it as well, because how does she kill her sons? She, instead of poisoning them, she literally grabs a sword and runs them through with like a sword. And there's this really kind of disturbing inversion of what like the duplicitous kind of evil woman is doing. Like she gets her hands dirty when it comes to like her kids, but like doesn't quite like goes for the like poisonous route with the princess. I always thought that was like an interesting inversion of what usually happens in these kinds of stories.
Well, I guess she does poison a man because Creon, like, the way I understood it, and largely just influenced by the Lars Von Trier thing, because I watched that before I read the play. And, like, she poisons the chaplet, which has got, like, sharps, like, or it could be, like, imagining, like, even, like, crown of thorns type thing or something like that. So she poisons that and she pricks her finger or something, dies of the poison. And then when her father's trying to save her, he also gets cut by the crown, and then he also dies and stuff. But then later she just runs through her children with the sword, and
which is very, very different in Lars Von Trier, but we'll talk about that like later. But I just and then she's just has this, like, she takes the bodies of her children and starts riding off on dragons, and like while she's sort of floating there in the air, like has this speech against her, and Jason like sort of trade kind of venomous barbs, and I've just always loved that image of like some heinous bitch on some dragons with her dead children, like just like castigating her ex-husband.
So she just like becomes like a deity or something. Like I sort of interpret it as like a golden chariot or something, but it's probably down to the different translations or something. I can't remember the Lars Von Trier one. It just doesn't really have that aspect to it either, right? It's just sort of like fades out.
She just sails away.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting that she's, rather than her, committing suicide or something, as you'd expect. It's just like, yeah, she just gets deified and takes off. And I did listen to one podcast on this thing just earlier, and they were saying like, yeah, there's like no other record in any of Greek mythology of her death ever, so she's sort of considered this immortal being. That's interesting. The god of revenge, child killing, or something.
Yeah, well, there's the play and there's the myth. So a lot of the Greek dramatists would often take existing myths, right? So, and then just reinterpret them, give them their own spin. But the myth of Medea, I think, from reading, because I've done a bit of reading on it, but I did it last week, so like I might not have all the details quite clear. But the myth of Medea is like same sort of thing happens. She kind of, because as in the play, she asks for the Aegeus, the king of Athens. She asks for his protection. So once she gets to Athens, she's fine. Like he won't give her up to anyone who comes looking for revenge. That actually happens in the myth, but then he finds out that what she did through some means, I can't remember. And then he basically breaks his oath to her and like runs her out of Athens. And then I think she's just away. She like just sort of is driven away and out of Greece and like is never heard from again, sort of thing. So
does she grant him the children she promised him?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so I always, I think this is it is very archetypal, but like, I don't know, before the Medea archetype in the myth, before that arrived, like, is that an archetype that existed before? Like, because I think it's one of those things where the reason that it's so dramatically kind of compelling is that because it's so unarchetypal of like a mother, like she's this almost like alien figure. And, in the context of the time, like Medea is an alien, like she's not a Greek. And like part of the kind of cultural context as well is that, Jason returns to Greece with a foreigner as his wife. And it's not just that he's picking the like younger one, he's picking the younger Greek one because that more fits in line with his kind of culture, right? And so, maybe the Greeks viewed Medea as like, oh no, it was totally fine for him to discard her because she's not Greek, like, but in terms of the murderous mother, I guess you could say there's the Jungian, I think it was Jung or Eric Neumann or someone who talked about the devouring mother, like the mother who is so protective that it becomes almost malevolent. But I don't think Medea quite fits into that archetype. I think it's like the woman scorned sort of thing. But it almost feels like the woman scorned thing kind of comes from Medea. So I'm not sure, like, is that an archetype that we can sort of pinpoint?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think like you're right with the devouring mother, because that's just more like without any kind of like betrayal, just they are just so overprotective it becomes like bad. It's also too funny, like Jason has his like reasoning, like where he's just like, well, I'm actually doing this for the benefit of all of us. Like, I'll marry into this like royal line, and then like, it'll be to everyone, the children's benefit and all of that, and I'll bestow, which is also interesting because like, he got the golden fleece, and then like, well, what good is it if you just still like need to like just marry into the like royal line? Like, what was the golden fleece supposed to do? Is it grant magical powers or what?
I can't remember what it did, but I think it was just
just that it's gold.
It's a golden fleece, and it's pretty, and yeah, so yeah, I can't remember, but it was something to do with Zeus. I can't remember, but yeah, anyway, but the devouring mother, the kind of female archetype of the woman scorned. What I think is really interesting as well is like she kills the children in revenge against Jason, but there's also like a reading of it that could see it as kind of a kind of practical thing to do as well, because like the children being Jason's would be kind of a threat to the offspring of Jason and and Creon's daughter as well. So like they might have just been killed anyway by
if like she'd let the princess live and then they had children or something.
Yeah. So there's readings of that sort of say, well, they're as good as dead anyway because they're, half Greek kind of contestants to Jason's kind of lineage or whatever. So, and those are some of the ways that like the feminist readings kind of take it and the feminist performances. But I think this is a thing that's like really great about it, is that, like we were saying before, is that you could make a really misogynistic version of this. You could make a really feminist version of this. You could make a just really faithful version of this that to the original play that kind of is both at the same time. Like, and that's why I say that and that's why I really enjoy it and enjoy like revisiting it, is that, it's what good art is supposed to be. It's just so rich. Like you can just, and you can you can even make it really kind of historically, accurate as well. Or not accurate, but, faithful to the culture that it came out of if you wanted to as well. And again, you're going to have feminist, misogynistic, like you're going to have all of this stuff in amongst it. And it's so funny that even with the kind of really feminist versions of this that I've seen, like the misogyny still comes through. Like they try all sorts of like Brechtian postmodern ways to kind of usurp it. But at the end of the day, like it's really hard to do that because of the nature of the story. So I've always really enjoyed that about it. It's quite delicious how it does that.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to put like a spin on child killing, especially you like your own children or something like that. Like, you could, like, whatever. She had some provocation, and like you could say she was in like maybe just like she was gone mental a bit, like because of it. It was so distressing to her. She wasn't in it. Like, isn't there something where she's like, I know this is like wrong what I'm gonna do, but like I'm not like myself or something like that. So there's like sort of the mental health aspect to it or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I haven't seen that version of it yet. That'd be good. Yeah.
So maybe she just had some Valiums or something. She'd be chill.
And it's also just like a lover's spurned, like very kind of standard lover's spurned kind of story but it's just taken to such an extreme. And like, we like extremes in drama. Like even the chorus leader, I think this is on line 520. The chorus leader says, "Terrible is the anger and almost beyond cure when strife severs those whom love once joined." And that's like a very true sentiment, like I'm sure we've all gone through like very difficult breakups where you kind of are just someone who you once like really deeply, passionately loved, then kind of leaves you. It is, you get very bitter and you get very angry, and I wouldn't kill my children, but like it's heightened because it's drama.
I'd like smash my iPad or something like that.
Yeah. That'd be like the woke Medea with like no violence or like any kind of like, it's like, and then you just chuck your iPad.
You delete your Facebook.
Yeah, you delete your Facebook.
Not even the one where it's like, oh, we'll keep the information. Like, no, delete it forever.
And I think it's very easy, but although I do think it's a modern kind of, it's the way we're modern. We come from the modern world and we think this way, but it is very easy for us to side with Medea in some ways. Like, if not side with her, then like understand the
Yeah.
psychology where it's just like, I did all this fucking shit for you. I left my homeland for this strange kind of new land. I like helped you like in your quest. I betrayed my brother and my father and like left everything behind, and you're just gonna like cast me off. I was
Yeah.
like, that's a raw deal, man. Like, I don't care. I don't care how misogynistic you are, you know?
Yeah. And it's not like it's like this slow kind of thing where he leaves her and then later it sounds like it's just immediately she's just getting the news that not only has he left her, but he's already like lined up a new chick and like, she's younger and she's the daughter of the king and all of this stuff. Like, and she's also got to be like exiled from the country.
Mm.
Like, and that's the thing, like that allows her, she like pleads with the king for like 24 hours, one more day to just get her stuff together. And that allows her the time to like, enact her scheme to like have them murdered and then to murder her children.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about the play, or shall we get into the film?
Yeah, let's go to the film. I can't think of anything else on the play.
Now, the film was actually a television film, and it's one of Lars Von Trier's first films. And this was but it was in 1988 he made this, and this was long before he even started Dogma 95 with Thomas Vinterberg. And so it's basically a adaptation of Carl Theodor Dreyer's adaptation of Medea. I'm not familiar with him, but he was apparently a Danish film director and very influential on Lars von Trier and others. Pretty much follows the story quite faithfully with some differences. I always found I find Medea in this, who is played by Kirsten Olsen, a lot kind of like older and haggier than I imagined in the play, and almost nun-like, right? She's wearing that like kind of little head wrap, and she's in the same kind of black color, but she's still got this kind of scary intensity, always out in like nature. Like, I love that scene where she's like shaking things off in the swamp, like to get the berries, and like whatever the fuck she's doing when they come to her and tell her that she has to leave or whatever. She has this this kind of nun-like, but also, wise woman. She knows things, and just the performance of that was really good. That she kind of made her almost like a kind of monastic figure rather than like some and she's very rarely seen with Jason until they start arguing, which I think is another really interesting aspect of this, where she's just sort of by herself with the children in the swamps. And I love that it was like really swampy, and like I love the misty and the motif of water. There was so much like water, like flowing water, and he used that to really good effect in this. And I actually couldn't believe it was a TV movie because it looked pretty good, at least my version.
Yeah, well, I was thinking during is like, man, he needs to make like an actual fantasy movie or something like that. Like, like imagine like something a bit fucked up. It couldn't just be like your whatever David Eddings adaptation or something like. But yeah, like if he did like the Mists of Avalon or something like that, like
that would be really good.
It'd be or something like whatever he could come up with his own like sexual like, but it'd be set like in a fantasy realm. But like, because it just made it look so good. And, it's probably just like late 80s Danish TV budget. Like, I don't know if that's like a lot of money, like that he had to work with. Probably not. Like, so yeah, he made it look, you can see like already, like I know he had other movies in the 80s. There's that like, that trilogy of like, what's it? Element of Crime and Epidemic and Europa or something like that. I've seen like half of each of those movies and I always fall asleep, but they look great. Like they are cool movies. So yeah, you can already see like his sort of style is really evident in it and strong. And yeah, it just looks so great. Like, I just wish he did something like, it's not too late. He could do some just really twisted, fucked up fantasy with lots of like incest and shit in it. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be good. He should do the Gore series. Have you ever heard of the Gore series? GOR. It's like this real, like everyone hates it. It's sort of like this, how to explain it. It's kind of like a Edgar Rice Burroughs Princess of Mars sort of kind of story where a guy is transported to another planet. It's like I think it's like a counter Earth, so it's like exactly in the same orbit as Earth, so we never see it. So whenever we're on one side of the sun, it's like, but like this guy gets transported to this planet, and it's like it's basically this guy has written like BDSM slave women kind of slash fiction essentially. So it's like, but it's sort of like sword and sorcery, but there's heaps of like bondage and like women who are slaves and submitting to men, and like it's really misogynistic and super sexual and shit like that. So yeah, probably everyone who listens to this podcast will be like going out to buy that now. But
Yeah, who was the author?
What was his name? Tarnsman of Gore is the first one. And I forget what the guy's name is. John Norman is his name. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really kind of infamous for being like not great writing, but like good enough, but also like just full of BDSM and like, you know, slave women submitting to men constantly. It's like a sexual power fantasy, basically.
It's interesting you saying that like the Earth is hidden by the sun. So you know, but that's kind of the plot of Melancholia, right? There's like that planet that no one knew about because it was always on the other side of the sun, and then it like collides with Earth. I guess the rest of it is probably fairly different to the Gore trilogy or whatever. But yeah,
but he could do something with that. Like, I think that would be really funny. And it is funny that like, you know, he does have this. I mean, I don't think that he did have the reputation of being a misogynist back then because he was just starting out then. But it is funny that like he took the story of Medea and didn't. I don't know. What do you think about this adaptation of it? Do you think that it's more on the kind of, you know, misogynist angle, or do you think I actually think it's probably more on the feminist side of things. Like,
I don't think it's particularly misogynist, really. Like, again, it sort of just sidesteps all of that. It's like, you know, I think he was probably trying to be as true to the play or true to that other guy's adaptation of it. Like, where, yeah, like because you're still like, it's not like Jason's like reasoning comes across as super convincing in it. And, you know, she's obviously kind of like, you know, it's not like it's sympathetic of the child killing or anything like that, but then they also the bit, you know, where she's like, the kid scrapes its knee and she like kisses this wound on his knee, and she's very like motherly and stuff. And even the way when she hangs them is kind of like very delicate and motherly, like, and just even like the hanging of the children, and the rope is like so thin, and it's not like a proper noose. There's something really creepy about that, where it's just this real thin little ropes with real small little like circles for the children. And then like the second child is like helping out in it.
Yeah, that's a real fucked up. It's so good because it's such like, it's so disturbing how he does that, and it's with like, it's really economical at the same time because it is like a very simple scene, very well acted by the children, surprisingly. And yeah, the second child basically asks his mother to help with her hanging him.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this version of it, she doesn't stab them. She hangs them from a tree, which is interesting and connects to the original myth actually, because Colchis, where Medea comes from, in a kind of, because the Greeks and the Athenians especially, when they started kind of, you know, sailing out and like exploring new lands and stuff like that, they would write these travelogues when they came back. And Xenophon, one of these guys who wrote one, talked about Colchis and said that he was a really spooky, fucked up place because the kind of barbarians there didn't bury their dead or burn them. They hung them from trees. Oh. And so I feel like Lars Von Trier has obviously brought that into this movie, like, because it's like harking back to where Medea comes from, where like the dead aren't buried; they're just hung from trees and left to sort of rot. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, right. And yeah, in the movie, she just does leave them hanging on the tree, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that's like also that little like the logo, the title logo thing where like the D is like a tree with two branches with the kids. So you get like the foreshadow. It's not like it's a spoiler or anything to know that it's like, because even the play, right, it starts off with a bit, it basically gives you like a summary of what happens. So you know from the get-go that the children are going to be murdered and everything. And then it just gets into it. Yeah, that little logo thing's pretty cool.
It is awesome. Yeah.
Make a cool like emo tattoo or something.
Yeah. I really liked when I like you said before, the way that Jason acts is really funny. Like I love that scene where she gets naked, that Glauca gets naked, and like Jason's like poking around, and then he sort of like grabs her through like this like really thin sheer material that's like covering the room or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know. I just thought that was really cool and like sort of very erotic at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like taken with her.
And she's like, no, not until like your ex-wife is driven out of the country.
Yes.
Like, so it's like, I mean, it's not, I don't remember that bit being in the play or anything, but like, it's like
No,
he never even got to like consummate the marriage before she's murdered.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so I do think the kind of age difference between, or the like perceived age difference. I don't know how much older the Medea actor is than the princess character, but like he really plays that up, the man who discards his old wife for a new one, upgrades to the newer models sort of thing.
Yeah.
Really plays into that. I loved Udo Kier as Jason, so like he was really funny. Obviously Lars Von Trier still works with him to this day, and obviously they have a bit of a bromance. But I do like his Jason is exactly what like I imagine Jason post adventures would be, that just sort of like this doughy guy that doesn't know what to do with himself kind of thing. It's like, oh, what do I do now? It's like the guy who, I don't know, has made heaps of money off Bitcoin or something like that, and just is sort of like, oh, what do I do now? And I guess I got to find a new bitch. It's that sort of thing. Like, yeah, really, really good performance from him, because it's so like, ooh, it's sort of like he's just like a bit of a doofus.
Yeah.
And I, like you said, with the fantasy elements, like I love this is actually something we were talking about in the last episode, where we were describing these PlayStation surroundings, fantasy settings that are kind of gothic and baroque, but also empty at the same time. Like there's a similar vibe going on here, where it's like not exactly like historically, he's not doing like all the right armor and all that sort of stuff, but it exists in this kind of fairy tale fantasy realm that's really misty and watery and mysterious, but also very sparse and empty at the same time.
Yeah.
Like when you read the play or watch it, you get this sense that Corinth is this bustling kind of ancient Greek metropolis, but it's just like there's caves, there's a swamp. Like I just love that kind of chthonic element to it.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, because it just looks like some 1200 AD like British Isles kind of thing. Or I guess it's probably all in Denmark. There's like all those kind of like real, like you can imagine like that Danish weather of mist and like the ocean and stuff like that. It always, and like the beach just looks like freezing cold and stuff like that. Yeah, it looks just like cold and nasty. Like and even like there's those bits where they're kind of in some kind of like sewer kind of thing, where there's like the brick, like really old like terracotta bricks and stuff. I remember that Element of Crime movie. There was like really creepy scenes where like there's like sort of like a noir kind of thing, and like this guy's like paddling this little boat through these like kind of sewers. So it might just be a place he knows about that like looks really great on film. I need to rewatch that movie because it was one of those. It's a kind of movie I really like, that kind of like trippy noir where you don't actually know what's going on, kind of like Inherent Vice or Under the Silver Lake kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just remember this bit where it was like some like helicopter flying into a beach and it's all red, and he's just like, "I believe in love," and stuff like that. I was like, I'm just watching. I have no idea what's going on.
What film is that?
Element of Crime. It's one of the early Lars Von Trier's.
Oh, okay.
Part of that trilogy.
Yeah. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch it. Like I said, I never saw the whole thing. I fell asleep watching it, but it was pretty cool.
I do also love Under the Silver Lake too. We'll have to do that at some point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So great. But yeah, the differences in this, I think, are great. The scenery is amazing. Like I said, how he just builds this gothic yet sparse yet kind of chthonic world. And the motif of water is great. Like I always love when someone puts in, not even just in books, but in films, especially when someone like goes elemental, where they're like, this movie has lots of fire or fire-like stuff. This movie has lots of, earthiness. This movie has so much water. Like, there's water everywhere. Like you said, in those catacombs, it's like, it's drippy and like dank. Then there's like there's another section of caverns where like they're disassembling the boat or something. I don't know what they're doing, like unpacking stuff. And then it's like the water there is just very kind of like, it's like slurry. Like it's really kind of, mixed in with mud and stuff. And then, Medea is almost like, they have this fight on the beach, and, she falls down into the water. And then there's like these trippy scenes where like, after their fight, there's sort of like this motif of water, like different colors behind them as they're contemplating, their futures and shit. Like, I just loved that it was very watery. And I don't know what he was going for there, like in terms of symbolism, but I just know that I liked it.
Yeah. And like, even there's like a bit where she like throws like the poison into the water, and you just see like all of the black kind of inking out of the little vial and stuff like that. There's also that great bit where like the horse gets scratched by the crown.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then the horse just like runs onto the beach and is like going, like, I don't know how they did that. They must have had to like use the rope and break its leg and get it to spaz out on the ground. And because I don't know, there's something I guess about like horses are particularly expressive when they're in pain or something. So it's like very visceral to just watch this horse just like suffering and like dying. Like,
yeah, that scene is so great. Like how, because the horse accidentally gets scratched with the crown, which is poisoned, and then like kind of is sort of jittery and shit, and then like storms that like gallops out of those dank caverns that you were talking about, then out onto the beach, and then it sort of just writhes around in agony. I'm pretty sure Lars Von Trier probably actually killed that horse. Yeah, because he's killed animals in movies before. I can't remember which one it was, but like he came in for some controversy because I think a duck or something was killed in one of his films. I think it was the house that Jack built.
Oh, I haven't seen that one actually. That's like his latest one, right?
I think so, yeah. And so he's not afraid. And, like most of these kind of European guys, like they don't care about killing animals. They'll kill animals all the time,
Yeah.
But yeah, the horse, that scene is it's very harrowing actually, because like you said, the horse is so expressive when it's in pain, and that was great. And it does die on the beach too. So like there's something there about maybe the changeability of water and destiny and that sort of stuff. Like maybe he's saying something there.
Yeah, there's probably something going on with that sort of like fluidity of water and what it represents symbolically. And I'm not sure exactly, but you're right. I think there's something there that'd be worth looking into.
Yeah, this also reminds me, when we're talking about the setting, this also reminds me of Sebastian by Derek Jarman, which I've covered before. I covered that with a couple of other very homoerotic, like Euro trash fag movies. That one is just very, very similar to this, where they just took a setting and you couldn't really tell that it was set in ancient history, like unless you kind of paid attention to the fact that they've got bows and arrows and shit. Like there's no attempt to like make it, you know, historically situated, you know?
Is that Sebastian, that like Saint Sebastian, the like Mishima, Mishima was obsessed with that image or whatever? Okay, right.
Yeah. So, and there's obviously a very gay image where he's like naked on the thing getting penetrated by arrows. But it's a similar vibe to that in that the setting is very sparse, but like they managed to like infuse it with like this mystical kind of energy, you know? And that one's more on the erotic side of things, I guess. But yeah, so, and that's a very European art film thing to do, I think. But I think you're so right. I think Lars Von Trier's next film needs to be like a sword and sorcery or something like that, like set in that kind of world, you know. The Mist of Avalon is actually a great idea. I would love to see him do Mist of Avalon and then like try to incorporate all the creepy like Marion Zimmer Bradley like
the real stuff. Like story of the incest. Yeah, that'd be, because I mean, like, you know, like the Germans and the Germanic Nordics or whatever like have that creepy, like, you know, trees with evil faces kind of aesthetic sort of stuff. So he could just like film it all in Denmark and like have it be very, you know, Germanic or whatever. But then also, he'd need to have like, some kind of taboo sex and shit going on in it. But then we're just your standard, like, also heroic, like, you know, fantasy kind of thing. And he could chuck some misogynistic angle on it or something or whatever he wants to do. But I think he would make it look great. You know, he would actually do it, because it was so disappointing in the 2000s. Remember, like the Lord of the Rings movies came out and you're like, well, these movies are incredible. And then like you thought there was just going to be heaps of just like fantasy adaptations that would be great. And then there really wasn't anything until like Game of Thrones. And then obviously that kind of fucking lost the plot towards the end anyway. Like, so it was very disappointing. You thought, because so many fantasy movies are just, they look terrible and they're just so boring and just nothing, you know, like it's, I don't know why can't Peter Jackson just like go find this? It's not like Lord of the Rings is the only good fantasy trilogy. You know what I mean? Like, can't he do something else?
Even Conan, like bring back Conan.
They did
awesome
the Conan
shit.
remake. I watched half of it the other week. I fell asleep.
Terrible.
It's not terrible. It's completely watchable. It's just, you know, the first Conan movie is the best one. The second Conan movie's all right. Gets a bit. So by Crom. Like I read the Conan stories whenever I'm kind of like can't think of what to read. I'll just read another Conan one. And lately I've been reading like the Elric stories by Michael Moorcock. But like they did do that Conan remake thing, and it's fine, but it's not as awesome as the Conan stories are to read. You know what I mean? Like it's just
there's no and it can't ever be as good as John Milius's interpretation of it with like Arnold Schwarzenegger punching a camel.
Yeah,
that's like one of my
favorite. Camel, like, remembers him.
That's like one of my favorite scenes. I'm not kidding. In all of cinema, like it is so good.
That's right. And like the James L. Jones turning into a snake, like that's another example of that kind of creepy, like obviously like, you know, practical effects that doesn't look realistic at all, but looks fucking creepy and cool.
Yeah, but like that's the thing as well, is that I think it's a mistake when you kind of depict something that is not real and could never happen, like something magical, with like too much reality, because like part of that like scene and what makes it so disturbing is because it's like it's not like what you would imagine if you could imagine that happening. It doesn't look like what you would think it would look like. It does look fake and weird, and because he's using sorcery to do that, sorcery is fake and weird, and so like that's what it lends itself to looking weird and fake and artificial, because it is like, you know, like it's black magic, and black magic is like a perversion of what reality is supposed to be. So I don't like when they use all of this technology to make it like ultra, like, you know, make sure it looks ultra realistic, because, well, we're not going for reality here. Like we're going for like a twist or a perversion of reality. And that's why I think the older movies like that are so much better at like, they give you that vibe, you know?
Yeah, and that's why, like, you know, I think about it was Rare Candy I was listening to talk about like David Lynch and stuff, and about how none of his special effects look realistic at all, but you completely just go with it because it's like it just totally works, and you accept his universe, and you know you're looking at like something that's in a strange heightened state of reality or just whatever. So you're not expecting like any of it to look exactly realistic, and it would be probably like stupid if he just spent millions of dollars on CGI and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, definitely. So Lars Von Trier, please remake The Mists of Avalon.
Or a Samuel Delaney book or something.
Yeah, or something like that. The thing
make
about
your own story, but
the thing about the King Arthur stuff as well, like you don't even need to add like the incest and all the taboo stuff, because like King Arthur basically sleeps with his sister, and that is basically his undoing. There's other shit that's in those stories that is, you know, just as fucked up as well. So it's not like you need to like go searching for, you know, transgressive stuff in those old stories. So, you know.
Yeah, true.
Delaney would be great. Someone needs to adapt something of his. I'd like to see Hog.
Yeah.
I would be very impressed if someone ever managed to get that off the ground, like something like that, or Through the Valley of the Nest of Spiders, something like that, or even Dahlgren. But I don't know. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but what about that, like, the Robert Anton Wilson Illuminatus trilogy? Isn't that meant to be like all pretty sexual and strange?
I haven't read that either, actually. Yeah.
Let's do it. I want to read
Let's do it. All right.
Yeah. I have a copy. I've just never read it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to put it on the list. But yeah, any more thoughts on Lars von Trier's interpretation of Medea? I thought it was great.
Yeah, I liked it. And if anyone listening, it's just on YouTube. There's one with subtitles. I tried to find a torrent of it, and they all had like Italian or Portuguese subtitles and stuff. And I thought I was just going to have to watch one of those. But no, there's one on YouTube with English subs. Goes for like an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. It's not even long at all.
Quite short. That's about how long the play usually goes for as well. So, you know, it's quite faithful to its and which you wouldn't think from Lars von Trier that it would be quite faithful to the source material, but it is. So
he might have also had stipulations of what he had to make with like being
that's
like, for
true.
a TV thing. Like he might not have, you know, if he's a young director, it's not like he had just full control of whatever he could do. But yeah, he did a great job of it. It looks awesome. And yeah, like you say, like it's probably how long it would take you just to read the play anyway. Like it's not super long. It's just whether, like, you know, like I said, I just kept getting like zoning out because it's like I'm just not used to reading plays, and sometimes I'd have to reread the section to figure out what was even going on.
Yeah, it is. Plays are like better seen, obviously, but yeah, if you ever get a chance to go and see Medea, I would, and it doesn't matter who's doing it. Like if it's like some crazy blue-haired feminist or whatever, it's such a powerful story that it can get over that hurdle, and you'll get something out of it. Like if they don't fuck with the text, but if they do fuck with the text, something might happen. But if they don't fuck with the text and they just do, I don't know, random shit that blue hairs like to do, you'll still get something out of going and seeing it. So if there is a production of Medea, I would just recommend just, you know, going to see it, no matter who does it. But yeah, that was great. In other news, I've just finally published my Unherd piece about podcasts and bros reading books. So go and see that. I'll go and read that. I'll link that in the show notes. It's something that I sent off like last year, but for various reasons, like the editors like pushed it back. But yeah, that was really fun to write, and it was fun to like interview the Rare Candy guys, the Agitated guys, Jack and Kevin and Brad. But like it was just something that I kind of wanted to get out there, you know, because I got really annoyed by all of these pieces saying that like men don't read, and I'm like, our audience is all men. Like Rare Candy has like a very big male audience. Same with TPN. Same with Art of Darkness. So I'm like, you just don't know where to look. You know? Like, and so I kind of just wanted to like talk to a few people about that and what they thought about that. So, and apparently that's doing numbers. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah. So go and read that. Do you have anything to shill, Fresta?
I was just gonna say I read your article this morning. I thought it was great. So yeah, people should read that for sure. Do I have anything to shill? Nah, just this podcast at the moment.
Yeah.
Nothing going on. I was just gonna say on the topic of men reading, I actually have been reading very female literature lately. I've been reading the Rebecca Yarros.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
Well, I've been listening to audiobooks. Yeah, so I read I finished the first one and I'm on to the second one. So what was it? The Fourth Wing, and now I'm onto the Iron Flame. I think we should totally do it. Like, they're fun. There's heaps to criticize for sure. Like, but the actual story of it is actually pretty fun, and I actually care to find out where it's going.
Amazing. That's good. That's good. Like, I like that. The only bone I have to pick with her is that when I think I said this a couple of episodes ago, when I went up to sort of look at the state of play of like where the subgenre of sword and sorcery is, all I got was Rebecca Yarros. And I'm like, I haven't read those books. I don't think they're sword and sorcery.
No, it's not sword and sorcery.
So, but I don't
it's
like...
romantasy is the genre.
Yeah. But I don't like when Amazon... It must be some kind of AI sorting thing or whatever. It just like funnels things into subgenres that they're not actually in. Or maybe the publishers just like put 1,000 subgenres on like a romantasy book, so it just floods the categories. Yeah. So that was very annoying. So I have no idea what like the current state of actual sword and sorcery is at the moment. I'm imagining that it's just a bunch of guys who've self-published. So because
I wonder if any of them are a bit more sexual. You know, like the Conan stories, he'll like bed the wench or something like that, but you don't get like descriptions. Whereas the Rebecca Yarros, it's kind of jarring in a sense, like where it's like this like
tumescent members.
Well, it's like this YA like girly kind of fantasy, and there's all this like emotional abuse for the win, like sort of shit like that, which takes you out of it. And then it'll get to the sex scene, and it's like, and then you pulled my panties across my clit and all this shit. Like, it just goes straight into the details, real hardcore. So it's like, and everyone's like, oh yeah, my sister really likes those books. And you're like, yeah, you know, I know what she's reading now.
Yeah. She's finger banging while she reads it.
Yeah.
But this is like a very old story, right? Where women, like, it used to be just romance novels, you know, the pirate Fabio kind of novels that used to be what my mum like sort of read. And then my mum recently got into the Diana Gabaldon books.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Holy shit. Like, I just opened a random page of that, and like, it was the most, like, and I've read Samuel Delany. I know what filth on the page looks like, and this is like on par. Like, I was just like, holy shit. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, my mum's reading this. You know, like that sort of feeling. But
I've seen the show Outlander. Like,
that's not nearly as sexy by the look of it.
Possibly not. I don't know what the books are like, but the show goes pretty hard with like, it's pretty sexual and crazy and stuff like that. Like, it's straight up filth. Like, so yeah, I'm sure the book goes like way crazier.
Yeah, I love it. And, you know, I love that the girls are still reading that stuff, although it's just sort of slightly changed to different settings and stuff like that. Yeah, it's great. It's great to have like sex back in like literature, even if it is like literature that's sort of written in a YA style, which it's
the amount of teenage girls whose parents are like, oh, these are popular dragon books. Like, oh yeah, it's just at Target or Kmart. We'll just get it for her.
I love that. I love when authors do that, when they like smuggle in stuff under like a kind of just innocent looking guise. It's like, yes. I'm like that meme of the sicko at the window, like, yes.
And it's like this is all I've read is just the Rebecca Yarros one, but it's not like it gets straight into it. Like, you got to read like 400 pages before there's an actual kind of sex scene. It's very, you know, what women love of the like, it kind of gets annoying where she's always just like moody at the guy, and like, you know, there's always like delays and, I can't like this guy. He's like the bad guy and he wants to kill me and my family and stuff like that. And, so it very like delays the gratification. So, if you just read the first 2 chapters, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's just about young women at a dragon academy, or there's dudes in it as well, and trannies and shit. It has that sort of shit too.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's just like
and just shows the difference between sexuality between men and women too. It's just like, sexually you would just be frustrated, and a lot of men actually are, which is why I feel sorry for straight men. But that disconnect between like, we've got to ramp things up slowly. It's like, no, I want to fuck,
There must be people who've like, I heard these novels are smutty, and they're like, all right, I'm keen for like a Maz, and then they're like, fuck, I just read for 4 hours. I didn't even get to the sex scene. But maybe they've turned on still. But then
that's really smart, because that gets them invested. So well, I've read 400 pages, so I may as well finish it, sort of thing. Like it's genius marketing, actually.
Like I said, the story itself is genuinely, I wouldn't like, it's not anything mind blowing or anything, but I'm like genuinely gets you kind of like, oh, I want to find out. And there's always kind of like a reveal, and then you're like, oh, really? That's the guy's still alive or whatever. Like, there's all that kind of shit going on. So she knows how to like, she's obviously did like the writing course where you like learn how to keep the reader on the hook kind of thing. So yeah, I'm in for the rest of the series, I suppose.
All right. So, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I did want to do an episode or two on romantasy, so we'll have to do that, because I just want to understand it more than anything, like, because it's like very I guess, like you said, it's very woman brain in like it's stuff that really appeals to women, but it's also, it seems like it's very universal in the sense of like they are doing something right with like the story too, like with hooks and things like that. So it'd be interesting to investigate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, listen to just the audiobook of the Fourth Wing. I smashed through it pretty quickly because I was kind of like, I was into it. So at first I wasn't. Like the first half hour, I was like, because she's a bit where she like walks up the stairs and then she's like, I am so fucked. And I was just kind of like, I don't want her to be talking like that. I don't want her to like, oh, doth thou havest mine lance or whatever, like, and then just like when it's just in this like, fucking sounds like grown-up Rugrats or something talking, like it's just, but you can see the influence. It's like, well, like Twilight and Game of Thrones and Gilmore Girls and 50 Shades of Grey, I guess, or something like that. Like you could just see like the influences all there on the page, like, but you get past that quickly, like you'll accept it. And yeah, like I said, the story it's because it's not just about the romance. There is like a greater like, narrative of the like empire and all the shit going on with the dragons and the borders and all this shit, griffin riders, fairy tale stuff.
There are dragon and griffin riders?
Oh yeah.
Oh well, I'm sold.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to do that. But yeah, in the meantime, I would recommend, like, if you're not into reading plays, I wouldn't recommend reading Medea, but like if there's a production, like I would say go and see it, because it's really great. And this is one of the few times where I recommend even seeing a production by like a hardcore feminist, because there might be some cringe elements of it, but like it's still going to be really powerful due to like, what we're saying, all these kind of archetypal themes and this very like ancient, primordial, enduring conflicts between men and women, and so like it does that in a really cool way. I just really loved it.
Yeah, well, if one comes to Brisbane, I'll check it out. I'm sure the missus would be keen to see it.
All right, well, that's it for this week, and I can't remember what we're doing next week, but stay tuned, because apparently we're going to be doing romantasy soon. Sex and dragons, hell yeah. See ya.
your servant and your worker too, until the end, until the end. All egos with evil hearts, of all egos with evil hearts, casting votes on the potato couch, of all the egos. Medea shouts, don't kill her just for the sake, don't let it out, so punish your machine, let the mothers do the work, then try to scream until it hurts. Egos with evil hearts, until it hurts. Oh, but Buddha, don't say you're lucky until it hurts. Of egos with evil hearts, Medea shouts. Of egos with evil hearts, Medea shouts, open side and let it out. Medea shouts, with tall Spanish men who live in the lion's den, with the touchers and the talkers.